Excellent. Um, so welcome everybody to our first featured talk of the day. It is my pleasure to announce Laura Asion from Argentina, and their talk will be What, Why, and How of the International Open Science Community of Practice. Laura, you're up. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Savannah, for inviting me to present. And thank you everyone who has joined and still joining. It's a real pleasure to be part of this conference that has been so well organized. Thank you so much to the organizers. I know how much effort it takes to be so mindful. So really, thank you. Huge thank you to all of you. And let me do my timer so I don't go over time. Just I'll be with you in a second. Okay, sorry about that. I will not repeat the title of my presentation. I'm here on behalf of a whole team from Metadocencia because this is big team science, right? So here I am. And in case I know this is already in the schedule, but in case you need a link to the presentation, it's here. I just posted in the chat. And so a little bit more about me before I get started. I'm one of Metadocencia's co-founders and one of its executive co-directors, and I will tell you more about Metadocencia in a minute. But I've been doing research for about over 30 years now. So I've been involved in academic research for a long time. So I wore a lot of different hats. And I got my PhD at the University of Iowa. So I do have this mix of I'm based in Argentina and in Latin America and work from here every day. But I have a lot of contacts with international communities as well, thanks maybe to that opportunity to have done that PhD there. And so I'm also a researcher. My PhD is in biostatistics, and I tackle usually work on the responsible use of data as a tenure researcher at the University of Buenos Aires, the CONICET, our National Research Foundation, for those who are from the US, maybe familiar with that term. That is very related to health or artificial intelligence, but that's like my researcher hat. I'm not wearing, well, I'm wearing all hats at the same time as a single person, but mostly I will be talking today on the work that I have been doing with Metadocencia and other communities of practice in open science. So what is Metadocencia? Metadocencia is a community of practice that has been doing open science work. That's our mission and vision. So we seek to advance innovation with a local perspective that builds scientific and technical capacities by co-creating networks, learning spaces, and accessible resources for Spanish-speaking communities. So all those folks that you see in the screen and that you can find more in that link for our team are based in Latin America and different countries, mostly in Argentina for this team that it's like more the core team of, but there's also folks from Mexico and Uruguay in that picture and also from Bolivia. So those are the folks that work regularly at Metadocencia, but we are about to be 5 years in next March. So 4 years and a half. We are a grassroots organization that started as fully volunteer, and now it's sustained by grants and consulting. So we have worked over the years with a number of contributors. I think we are at about 75 contributors. These are the active contributors, and they come from places from all over not all over the world, because that's a big assertion, but from a few countries around the world, but here and mostly from Latin America. We have folks from Colombia, from Venezuela, from Mexico. We have contacts with communities in Costa Rica, and we have been serving folks from the region mostly, but also there are folks from the US, from Spain, from Europe, and also we have contacts with some folks in Africa. So this is just the current active contributors, and if you go to our webpage, you'll see former contributors. So I like to, I mean, it is, we do manage a big team in a way, because like without the contributors of all these folks, Meta would not be what it is. So we also sustain a what we call a hive of fellow communities, because we think that science is made by worker bees, rather than like your single Nobel Prize, or your single big unique name and very personal name. We believe in communities of practice. And so these are our current fellow communities. They are more in the website, so it's over 20 all over the world. Well, not all, I mean, again, that's a big term, sorry, I keep saying it, but it is, I'm very proud that we have a number of countries and continents represented. And with our teachings and trainings, we have reached, since we started until now, we have reached every continent except for Antarctica so far. So I'm very proud of that. If you want to know more about this, and anyone can join the panel, this hive of fellow communities, you just need to go to that link and write us an email if you're interested. So that so that's who I am and what metadocencia is. But let me tell you, in case I already said community of practice a couple of times. So let me go to the very definition of it on the what. So a community of practice is a group of people who share a concern or a passion for something they do and learn how to do it better as they interact regularly. That's the Wikipedia definition taken from the authors of this concept. And really, that's what Metadocencia has done. I mean, we started as a bottom-up organization getting together at the pandemic because we needed to teach how to teach online to Spanish speakers, mostly in Latin America, because that was not something done. This was not so common in March 2020, and we did have the experience and the training to do it. And from then, we have evolved to be an open science community of practice. And so the other word that I have to define is what is open science, in case you're not yet familiar with it. According to the UNESCO, open science is a set of principles and practices that aim to make scientific research from all fields accessible to everyone for the benefits of scientists and society as a whole. Open science is about making sure not only that scientific knowledge is accessible, but also that production of that knowledge itself is inclusive, equitable, and sustainable. It's a very big vision to make all science inclusive, equitable, and sustainable. But that's the international definition that the UNESCO came up with, and we really like it, and we are working towards it. So just in case you're not familiar with open science, I would like now, we already defined what it is, a community of practice, what is open science. I like to move on more the why of that it's the meat of this talk. Well, no, the how is the meat, but why should we care about doing international open science, and why should we care about communities of practice for international open science? Well, there's this proverb that its origin is discussed, but I think it's African. You can read more on the origin of this in the link. So if you want to go fast, you go by yourself alone. But if you want to go far, you go together with a community. And so to make open science and open science, according to UNESCO, open science can accelerate our ability to help the complex challenges of our interconnected world. And that is a very big aim that open science has. And it's for the whole world. So really, you need to have everyone on board. So that's my my very humble view of why this topic matters and it's important. And I hope you can already see how this connects to big team science. And really, rather than international, I didn't dare to title this talk global. But I really think, because global is a huge word and it's very difficult to have access to the whole. We are working towards being as global as possible, and we love that. But, our experience is more international than global still. But, if you let me dream a little bit, I go for, getting rid of international and being more global, because it's the only way we can tackle that we live in a single planet all together, and we need to work all together. So that's the why. And the how, well, and here is an example of a community of practice of open science that Metadocencia is very proud to be part of. This is Transform to Open Science TOPS community. It's an effort led by NASA, but it's made possible thanks to the work of a community of 3,100 plus folks. That picture really, there's not so many people, but getting us all together is very difficult. But it's a really big community that it's trying to transform our the regular science into open science, and Metadocencia is very proud to be doing that in Spanish. And so we have been training folks in Spanish, and you can see it's not just Latin America. It's Latin America, most of it. We still need to reach some parts, but it's also Canada and the US, and there's also part of Europe, because Spanish speakers are all over the world. And we have been in only 1 year, we have reached over 450 folks with these contents. So there's a lot of interest. And of course, we don't do this alone. We have a lot of other communities that help us amplify these, that also speak in Spanish. And we are very proud that this is not only for within Spanish-speaking communities, which are already in a voice that is not so common in global open, because science. So we are talking in English here. It's a lingua franca in a way. So it's a little bit of a marginalized community. If you only speak Spanish, you are left out of the conversation. But also within that, we also reach over 50% of our folks come from underrepresented groups in science and technology. So we are very proud with our reach. And we couldn't do this if we do it in a big team. And well, if you want to know more about how to transform to open science in English, you just need to follow that QR, and you can get certified by NASA and learn about this if open science is new for you. But just so this is just the example of taking my time here. Of how we are working together with this other international, how we are part of this community of practice international. So how to build healthy global open science communities of practice? Well, these are some of the things that we have learned over the years. I started working in communities of practice before Metadocencia back in 2017 through Our Ladies Global. So what I'm gonna share here is our community learnings and my personal learnings. They are not grand truth or universal or anything. It's just my experience and our experience as a community of practice ourselves in Metadocencia. So I think we need to do outstanding global open science, which is the goal of all of this. There's more need to invest in persons and in community building than usually it is considered. It's usually community building is thought as it's the second thought out of like, no, let's do great discoveries. But well, you need the people to do that. And for big team science, you need a strong community. You need a strong alliances within people. Thank you, Savannah, because your acknowledgements make a difference for me. It's very difficult to speak to the boy. So you also, when you want to go global, you need to include folks from all over the world, but not only in like participating in the efforts or just like, come be a contributor of my project. It's just you need to live, if you really want to go global and have the full vision of what's going on and make sure that you are acting and representing those folks, you need to have those folks seated at the decision tables. And if they are locally marginalized, even better. Not just someone who lives in Argentina, because you can be tapping on the most privileged folks in Argentina, and that's my case, because I do at least speak English, but there's a lot of more, I think over 70% here do not speak English. So you're leaving out a lot of folks that have a lot of talent. So you need to include folks in decision making, not only just as participation if you want to go global. You need to incubate and help initiatives that are based in the territories where they are serving, because if you do this from a global community of practice that is based in the US, in Europe, I mean in high income countries essentially, that wants to serve the global South, it will be losing some of the daily things that happen here. Also, you need to ask folks from the territory and generate resources based on their needs rather than try to save us from outside our territories. And most importantly, if you say you're doing global open science, you need to be kept accountable for all of the above, because it's very easy to say very nice words, but then do not come through with that nice words that don't come to fruition really should be taken into account. So the resources go to the folks that really do this very seriously. So those start always by giving rather than, because if you want to be involved with these local folks, generosity is key. Start by giving, not by asking. And also when inequities exist, go beyond than just meeting in the middle, because there's inequities. So like trying to, you do 50% of this, I do 50%, we are equal. Well, take into account that equity is different than equality. And also it takes a lot more work to build intercultural trust than trust within folks with a common culture, and it breaks in seconds. So be aware of that one as well. I set up my thing really badly. I don't know if you keep hearing that thing that oh good, thank you, Savannah. So transparency in terms of budget and money and clear communications are really key. If you want to build trust, be transparent on the money, which is like what rules our world, unfortunately. Even if I don't like it personally, it is what is running us. And you need to act locally and think globally. So be connected with if you're local, you need to be connected to the international and on the global. And if you're global, you need to be connected to the territory. And you need to learn. So to do that, you need to learn from local peers what is needed, and you need to co-create the projects with the local peers. And peers is in italic here because when you don't belong to the territory, sometimes there's a lot of unconscious bias that go in, and when my language is not as clear, I'm a lot smarter in Spanish, I promise, and English is my second language, so my accent and my articulation and the number of words that I'm using is not as rich, but so we all do have unconscious biases built in, and that's what it is. So always think about the local folks as if they were Nobel Prize winners, and you will never ever go wrong. That's a tip to go against unconscious bias. put the money and time where beautiful words are. So if there's a project that serves the majority world or the global south, that's another term for the global south, you need to, the funding needs to be proportionally, and the global south needs to be proportionally represented, like not like 90% for the global north and 10% with for the global south, when like all samples will come from the global south, for example. I mean, because without those samples, you cannot do it. So be careful, because not doing this proportionality and being very fair on this, it gives you high risk of harm and extractivism. And again, make room for meaningful decision making, boards, committees. So the majority word is proportionally represented, because if you only have one representative from the majority word, it's very lonely, and it's very difficult to raise your voice in those environments. So really, as with any other minorities, I mean, this works the same if it's for gender, if it is for race, it's the same. If you're alone, it's very difficult to raise your voice. And sometimes I get like, yeah, come to this board, do this thing for free. I was like, wait a minute, I don't necessarily have the privilege of time. So offer symbolic honoraria for making participation possible, because those can go a long way. And because I really am on time here, I think. So I will go very fast over this, but there's a lot more material. Volunteering is a problem, not a virtue, because of the reasons I'm listing here. Also, if you're working globally, as I mentioned already, at least for Latin America, English is a barrier, even if it is the lingua franca for research. I mean, speaking and listening and understanding, it's a lot more difficult than writing, for example. Avoid interpretation or translations as afterthoughts, because those are low quality usually. And if you're in if you're working with Latin America, just develop materials in Spanish or Portuguese first. In our case, and this might be, I mean, this is the case I do know. Do events virtual first, because of visa and long travel are barriers. And thank you, Big Team Conference, for getting this right. I will, the final tip, when in big team science efforts, we all get it wrong and make mistakes. Of course, we are all humans here. But when, but we do all have the capacity to learn and relearn. So vulnerable conversations and apologies go a really very long way to keep trust in intercultural collaborations. So that would be my final tip for all of you on how to make this. And thank you for being here today. And what questions do you have? Thank you, Carlotta. And if for those that joined later, this is thank you, Priya. This is the link to the presentation where there's a bit more of the tips that I didn't get to because of honoring time. Let's see, Aisha, what is the picture that you share? Yes, exactly. That's the picture I was thinking of, like equality and equity are not the same. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, absolutely. Oh, and if you want more, I mean, I sometimes like these tips are out of touch because you do have a particular project that you want to work on, and really you don't know how to implement different things. For example, symbolic honoraria, I threw it out there like that, but sometimes administrative barriers are very high in institutions to pay internationally. For example, if you are not a citizen of a given country, or so happy to talk to I mean, just reach out, and we have a lot of experience, and we can help you think in your particular project on how to apply this type of tips. And sometimes you cannot, and you just try and try again. But I mean, happy to discuss further outside of the conference. If you need to reach out, we are there, and we try to publish as much as possible on this. But feel free to write us, and maybe we can help you with any particular questions of your project. So that's something I didn't say, but I don't see any questions. That's why I'm taking the space.
All right. Well, we are also at time, so thank you so much for this fantastic talk. Um, I'll hang around in the Zoom room if anybody like wants to like linger and ask a question and they're too shy to do it on recording or whatever. Um, but otherwise, we'll see you at next sessions.
Thank you.